Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I have a lot of dancing skills, so I was like displaying them real quick. That's like the new stuff. That's like 2023 stuff. Anyway, so we're still currently in the Speed Chess Championships. And as of right now, Wesley is leading 6-5. Let me check here. Yes, he's leading 6-5, and he's doing okay in this game. He's doing okay in this game. Okay, so getting back to the game. Okay, so this game right here is taken from round 4. So I was able to do a video from round 3, and Wesley won that one. And then this is one from round 4, the next round. And so, yeah, if you guys are, let me see, make sure we good and nice and okay, we good to go. All right, so like I say before, guys, you know, at the end of the video, I have the solution to the previous puzzle, and I have a new puzzle for you for all those die-hard chess fans that we have out there. And so if you guys are ready, let's roll through. Okay, cool. Just make sure everything is good. We're good to go. All right, bam. All right, so we have E4. We got C5, so we have the Sicilian on the board. So knight to F3. So we have D6, D4, pawn takes D4, knight takes D4, knight to F6. We have knight C3. We have A6. So a testament to this guy down here, we have the Miguel Najdorf variation. So one of the most heavily played openings out of the Sicilian in chess history. We got it on the board here. And so I think it's fitting that I got Miguel Najdorf sitting down here chilling. It's a picture from 1973. I think it's a nice picture of him. Anyway, so we have Rook to G1. Now, as you can see, this probably looks really weird to a lot of y'all. It's called the freak attack. It is it's about in the middle of the pack. You know, there's like 15 different moves that have been played at this point. And Rook to G1 is about in the middle of the pack. It's about like maybe 9th or 10th most played move. It's a legitimate move. It's not. It looks very weird, but it's a very legitimate move. It's not bad at all. It does give black a little bit of an advantage. So it definitely gets them to like equality, maybe slight edge for black, but it's very playable. So we have E5. So knight to B3. We have bishop to E6, and we have G4. Of course, you're not taking because you're just going to be losing the piece, so let's not do that. All right, so we have knight to C6. We got G5, knocking that knight back. So we have knight to D7, and we have H4. And it is here that we have the novelty of the game. It's pretty, it's not that crazy of a move when you think about it because, I mean, H4 is just giving, you know, a lot of protection to that G5 pawn. And it, you know, prevents you from really having to defend it with pieces. So it makes a lot of sense. And I'm actually really surprised that it's the first time that we've seen this move ever. Because, I mean, it just seems like such a logical move to me. So, but anyway, we do have that move. Something else that was possible too, which is probably a little bit better for white, would be bishop to E3. And so after maybe bishop E7, you'd see queen to D2, and you'd see castles for white and castles for black queens, or castles for white queen side. You know, you have a pretty good attack rolling here. This is, you know, a pretty typical Sicilian looking type of situation where you have opposite side castles. You know, I play a lot of Sicilian dragon Yugoslavs as white myself, and so this is very familiar to me. And so, yeah, just going back to what we had, like I said, we had H4 in the game. So we have Rook to C8. Almost always when you play a Sicilian, you're going to see Rook to C8 at some point. And so we see H5, Bishop to E7. So we got Bishop to E3. We have Knight A5, and then we have G6. And at the end of the day, with this particular situation, the pawn pushes to H5 and to G6. A little bit premature. They're not quite rightly timed because you know, it's just really easy for black to kind of shut this attack down, and you'll see that coming up here in the next couple of moves. And so you see F takes G6, H takes G6, and then you see H6, of course. And as you can see, I mean, the attack for white is kind of stunted. You know, there's really not a lot of bite left in it. And so, you know, you typically have these situations, especially when the king isn't already castled. You know, the king can maybe possibly kind of sneak itself over, you know, going like something like that to the queen side. And so it doesn't really have to go to the king side. And so something that was probably a little bit stronger would have been, let me see back here, would have been knight takes A5. And then after queen takes, see queen to D2. knight to b6, we'd see castles by white and then castles by black. And so, you know, this is a little bit better for white. But going back to what we had, like I said, we do have all the way to h6. And then, so we have knight to d5. You know, pretty nice general move. You know, of course, you know, the knight can't move away. You know, you'd be seeing bishop b6s and stuff like that, attacking the queen and this knight. So we see knight takes b3, pawn takes b3. We have knight to f6, so bishop to c4. We have knight takes d5, bishop takes d5. We see queen d7, and so we see c3. Of course, you know, we're looking at a situation where the bishop might take, and you want to take back with the queen. So you definitely need to protect this pawn here. Don't just leave it on c2 to be taken, especially because, you know, rook takes c2 would be just super beautiful, because that would be, you know, not only getting the pig on the 7th, but it'd also be taking a pawn in the process. So we see castles by black. And this is actually a slight mistake by Nakamura because of queen to g4, and what you've kind of put yourself in a position of, you know, this bishop is pinned to this king, so it only has the ability to move on this diagonal, and so you're double attacking this bishop. And of course, you know, you know, if you don't play literally rook to f6, you know, this bishop is going to be snapped off with check, and it's going to be attacking this queen as well. So, you know, you definitely don't want to see that. And so you have the saving move, rook to f6. So we see castles queenside by white, rook to d8. We see queen to h5. Bishop takes d5, rook takes d5, and we see rook d to f8. And so we see bishop takes f6. It's not the best sacrifice. It's very competitive because it puts black in a situation where they have to choose between a very specific set of moves. And it's kind of like one of those only movers where if you pick any other move other than the one move, you lose. So, like I said, not very sound by white, but it definitely puts black in a bad situation. But if we back up where rook d to f8 came, if you want to go ahead and stop the video and see what Wesley So actually missed in this position, it's something I really talk about all the time. So if you see any of my videos, this should stand out to you. It's like I said, it's a pretty big concept that I talk about very, very heavily in my video. So if you can stop the video and see what Wesley So missed here, go ahead. All right, cool. And so what you should notice in the position is that this queen is undefended, and it is also this pawn is actually pinned to the queen, and so it's just a clear queen takes e5, and it just removes the pawn from the board. Of course, if you take back, you know, queen's going to take, and that's just all she wrote. So you might see queen e6, queen would take e6, rook would take e6, and you just back the rook up defending that pawn on e4. So it's just a clear tactical shot, you know, it was considerably better than the move that was played, but you know, that's just the way it goes. So backing up, like I said, we do have bishop takes h6, we have g takes h6, queen takes h6. And we see bishop back to d8, so rook to d3 and queen to g7, and so we definitely can't deal with the trade in this particular position, so we need to back up to h3. And so we have bishop to b6, trying to attack the weakness on f2 here, and so we defend that with g2. And you know, you definitely can't you know, just take here, because you're going to be looking at queen to e6 check. The king's going to have to move over, and this rook's going to swing over, and that's going to be lights out. So we see d5, and we see e takes d5. We see e4, rook d to g3, and so we see rook to e8. King side stepping over here to b1. So bishop takes f2, and this is actually a move that puts black in a very, very bad position. And so we have queen to h7 with check. And so you have two options in this position. But if we back up, what was really, really much stronger after king to b1 would have been rook takes f2. And after d6, rook takes g2, rook takes g2, and e3, you have a pretty strong position. I mean, you're up a piece, and you have a passed pawn here on e3. So going back to what we had played, we have queen to h7 with check. And there are only two options that you have in this position. You have king to f8, or you have queen takes h7, and one is like monstrously better than the other. And so Hikaru Nakamura, you know, being the gangster that he is, he found king to f8, which you know, definitely helps your position a lot more. And so after rook to h3, we see queen to g8, and we see queen takes b7. So basically all you need to do in this position is maintain the queen on this rank, and you pretty much have, you know, had the game. And so we actually see queen takes g6 in this position, and it is in this position that Hikaru Nakamura actually resigns. You know, clearly, I mean, you can see that the rook is just going to be able to take the queen, and you know, you just have so many issues with, you know, your king being, you know, kind of, you know, in this box. The only other alternative after queen takes would have been queen takes h7, but this would actually put you in a really, really horrible position after g takes h7. The king would have to take back, and then you'd be able to sidestep your rook over to h2 with check, and then the rook would have to cover, and then after the rook moves away from the defense of that bishop, you would just pick the bishop up, and it would just be, you know, completely over with. And when you get in this position here, instead of queen takes g6, if you did try to block, with rook to e7, you know, you would see queen coming back to b8 with check, and you would see rook covering, and then queen to b2 with check, and then after the rook covered, you would have a rook to h7, and there's not really a way that you can unpin this rook, and you're just, I mean, it's just bombarding, you know, your pieces, and the computer, as the very top move, actually gives queen to g7. So, you know, that's not really a move that you want to play. You know, just literally throwing your queen in the way of a rook. But, you know, like as we saw before in the actual game, queen takes g7. I mean, you're in a position where you're going to have to give your queen up just to try to, you know, defend your pieces and stuff. So this was a really nice, clear win by Wesley So. And like I said, Wesley So is leading. And they're actually tied now as I look at that. You know, let me see here. So for those of you that want to see this puzzle, this was the one I had for you before. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through it real quick. And you can, you know, set the board up, you know, set the position up in your own chess engine if you want to. But the winning move is rook takes f7. And it's going to place this knight in a pin. And so you see rook to f1, e6, bishop takes e6, rook to b7, knight to e4, queen to a7, knight to f6 with check, knight would take, queen would take, rook to e8, and you see queen takes g6, king over. You see queen to h6, you know, taking advantage of the pin on the f file. The king would come over to e7. You would see queen to f6, king back to f8. And then you would see g6 further pinning the knight. After rook takes e6, you see queen to h8. And then after the king would have to move down here, you'd see this. And this pawn is promoting, and there's nothing you can do about it. And so the next puzzle for you guys is this one here. And it is actually a demolition of pawn cover. Yeah, it's called demolition of pawn cover. So it kind of almost gives you the answer. But yeah, that is that one here. And I will try to get as many games as I can coming up. See if I can't grab some more wins from the 2020 Chess Championships. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Subscribe and like. And give me some comments. Give me some feedback. And let me know if you want to see any other games. And I'll see if I can't do those for you. I appreciate it, guys. And I'll see y'all.